How to set boundaries with a narcissistic parent. So in this video, my friend, I'll share with you a story of exactly how I was able to do it. And by the end of the video, if you stay with me, I'll like I'll segment this story in three precise steps you can follow to do it in your specific situation. So if you feel guilty that and to like that you need to care for a narcissistic parent which isn't in your best benefit anymore, like it's not good for your mental health, and you know that when you're helping them you almost like make yourself dependent on them and you cannot take care of your own life, or if you want to just free yourself of the influence that a narcissistic parent has on you and you want to take your own life in your own hands, well, this video is exactly precisely for you. It was actually inspired from a conversation I've had with somebody in a previous video I made in the comment section, in which like the guy felt as if his mother was getting into his personal private space when he was like trying to always have control over his own personal belongings. And so he tried to communicate that, but she wasn't listening. And so there is always, like with parents, with narcissistic parents, when they make you care for them, or like when they feel that they have control over you, there is always this game of guilt, right? So it's like there is always this emotional blackmail. You need to do something for me, or I'll make you feel guilty. If you don't care for me, you're not a good child. If you decide to not be responsible for me, well, you haven't returned to me the favor that I helped you grow up, right? So there is always this if-then rules when you're dealing with a narcissistic parent. So how do you go around that? Because it's not as easy as just going out to speak with them. It doesn't work like that. They just won't hear you, and most likely you've already tried that, but it haven't worked. So how do you go about it? Well, let's get into this topic. Let me share now, before I do, actually subscribe to the channel if you're new to it, because in this channel, well, we'll talk everything about how you can surround yourself with the most conscious, uplifting, and meaningful relationships. So let me share with you a story of how I did that with my father. A while ago, I think it was like 2 years ago, I was in such a situation in my relationship with my father that he was making me feel obliged to give him money that he was spending for alcohol and cigarettes. I don't have a problem of like supporting my parents when they need help, like financial help. Totally, I don't have that problem at all. But like I found myself in this pattern in which for 3 consecutive months, my father was asking me for money, and I knew how he was spending them. He was spending this money for alcohol and cigarette, which wasn't in his best interest. Like it wasn't supporting his mental health, physical health, or like it wasn't helping him at all. It was actually deteriorating his own life. But so I felt as if I was responsible. I felt guilty to like stop doing that, and it was really curious. I was like, whoa, why do I feel like that? Why can't I just speak my mind with my father, who should respect me? I'm his child, and like he should understand me. Why does he make me obliged to care for him, even though what I'm doing to care for him isn't really in his best interest, isn't really in his best benefit? So I was really questioning that. And at this moment in time, I was also doing a lot of inner work to heal the relationship with my father, with the masculine. This was the moment I started doing this work. And so because I felt this guilt and like this anger and this offense that I was repressing, these feelings of disappointment from my father, feeling really offended, feeling betrayed by him, because like he wasn't really there emotionally in my life when I was just growing, when I was just when he was taking care of me when I was just a child. So I was taking responsibility of all those feelings in meditation, and it was a really synchronistic moment, because life reflected to me the dependent relationship, the dependent toxic relationship I had to my own father and to my inner masculine ultimately. And so I was feeling really guilty to not give him the money, knowing how he would spend them. And so that's why I was doing this inner work and letting go of my feelings. And so eventually I had this experience in which at one day I got home and I was feeling really deep grief, really deep grief. It didn't have any logical, I didn't know why I was feeling it. It didn't have any logical explanation. And I'm a really logical person when it comes to dealing with my feelings. I want to know where they come from. And so I know that if I know how this practice works, the letting go practice, for which I made a lot of videos. You can check out the letting go playlist if you're curious more about that in the description below. So I decided to just stay with that feeling of grief in my body and let it go, to understand where it's coming from, because it didn't have any logical source. Like, it wasn't coming from my last couple of days. Like, I didn't experience any loss to feel grief or something like that. It just triggered from nothing, and from thin air. And so I was really curious, what's trying to show me, because I know that our feelings are our teacher. Ultimately, they're our inner guidance system. And so I just stayed with that feeling for like 30 minutes to 1 hour in meditation, which feeling led me to a remembrance of how I chose my father, and exactly the exact reasons of why I chose him as my parent, and as like the symbol of masculinity. And I started letting go of a lot of disappointment, of a lot of anger I felt towards him, of a lot of like feelings of neglect, that I was neglected from him, because he wasn't emotionally available at all in my childhood. It was like a totally it was a war zone at home when I was just growing up with my parents. So anyways, long story short, in this meditation I've had this remembrance of how I chose him as a parent and why I did that. And I remember after that experience, I wrote down a letter to my father explaining to him all the feelings that I wasn't able, sharing with him all the feelings that I wasn't able to communicate with him back then when I was just growing up in his family. And I wrote this letter, and I started actually before that, because I was already doing work with my father, with the relationship with my father on the inside. And so I was starting it even before that, but now I completed that letter. And in this letter, what I shared were all the feelings, all the negative feelings I was feeling towards him, that I wasn't able to communicate with him transparently at all in my life so far. So it was a really genuine and honest letter, really transparent, deeply transparent. And there was a lot of crying writing it. And it like a lot of like freedom also, because it felt almost as if I dropped like this emotional baggage that I was carrying on my back. And so I knew, after writing that letter, and after the meditation, after writing that letter, I knew it was time to go and communicate what I understood about my relationship with my father, and how I chose him, and now how I'm grateful about choosing him as a parent. Exactly why, what were the things I was learning from him, and I just wanted to share that with him. And so, long story short, like a couple of days passed and he called me because he needed help with like setting something on his computer. And I knew inwardly, intuitively, I felt that he called me because he wanted to hear what I realized about my relationship with him, but he didn't have the understanding or the words to share that. That's why he come up with another reason, which was to help him with something on his computer. Anyway, I intuitively know it was time to share that. And before that, again, I was in a situation in which for 3 consecutive months already, he was asking me for money, which he was spending in unhealthy ways. And so I was like, I didn't find the courage before that to tell him that I wouldn't. Next time, I just won't give him the money if he spends them like that. But so this time we met together, and I was like, in my imagination, I prepared what I wanted to share with him and how he would react, and how I would respond to his reaction, to ensure the fact that I was heard, because I knew how important was that letter. And I was not only going to give him that letter, I was going to read that letter to him out loud. And so I went to his place, we met. I started helping him with the things on his computer. I realized that it's like I wasn't able to do so, but he was not willing to accept my inability to help him with that. And so this was the moment in which I wanted him to respect me. And so I was like, I just told him I wanted to share something with him that's really important for me. And I asked him to listen. And I did that. And I was like, I started reading, and I reframed him. I said to him, look, you're not going to accept what I will share with you. It wouldn't be easy for you. But I want you to listen. It's really important for me. I'm your child, and I want you to listen. If you have respect for me, you will listen for me. right? It's like, because at this stage he wasn't having a lot of respect for me. And like, if my parent doesn't have a lot of respect for me, I'm not responsible to have respect for them. So anyways, this was the intention I had. And so I started reading to him that letter, and he felt really triggered from it, because inside I shared, again, everything that I feel offended about, everything I was uh, mm, disappointed about his attitude towards me when I was growing up, everything that I was resentful about, all the anger I felt, like eventually how I reached forgiveness and how I wanted to share that with him. And so I did that. I read that letter to him, looking him in the eyes. And by doing so, he started triggering. There was this intense energy running through his body, like he started becoming red. His face started feeling red, um, looking red, like his skin color changed to red. There was almost this intense energy radiating from him. And he was like, "You cannot talk to me like that. I'm your father." Right? He was like, really, his narcissistic tendencies express themselves, because I was dropping this codependent relationship I had with him while reading to him that letter. And so he was like, "You cannot speak to me like that. Like, who do you think you are? I'm your father. You're my child. You cannot just say to me that you've chosen me. What are these bullshits? What is this bullshit?" Right? Because it's like a more spiritual, metaphysical perspective, and he isn't so much into he isn't at all at these things. And so he totally rejected what I was saying to him. But I knew that would happen. I prepared this in my imagination. So I just said to him, "Look, if you're not willing to listen to your own child and have respect for what he's sharing with you, I'm not accepting you as my father anymore. Fathers have respect to their children. You will listen to me." And so the moment I was bold like that, his heart opened. It was like an explosion of energy in his heart. He started crying, because it was the first time I actually spoke my truth with him. And it was the first time I demanded him to listen to me. I wanted to be heard as his child. And he was like, then he congratulated me. Then he was like, "Whoa, this is exactly what I wanted to see from you." It was like, "I want you to be free, and I want you to take responsibility of your life. I want you to have the courage to speak to me like that." And so this was the most intimate moment we had with my father. This was the first time he heard me. Before that, we had a codependent relationship. And I told you already what were some of the things reflected in that relationship. After this experience, it was the first time he actually respected my courageous attitude and my boldness. And after that, we had a really deep, intimate talk in which we shared all the talks we didn't have when I was just a child growing up in his family. We had, like, for the next hour, we were speaking really genuinely, really, really honestly. We were crying together. We were allowing to be transparent and vulnerable with our feelings. It was it had a healing effect in our relationship. For the first time, I was able to actually have respect for my father. Before that, we were enemies. After this talk, we actually started becoming friends. We set up some boundaries, some standards for our relationship, even though we have completely different beliefs about life. I just told him, I want us to respect each other, even though we don't like our way of living and our lives, and like what we believe about life. Let's just have respect for each other. And so we set some standards after that. And since then, my relationship with him, it totally transformed. But this was what was needed. And so in this story, there were three main things I shared. And now I want to structure them. As I told you, I want to share with you exactly how to set boundaries, the right place, how to set and to speak your truth with your narcissistic parent. And it's not, your narcissistic parent is not the one to blame, because ultimately you've chosen them, my friend. We choose our own parents for purposes, for reasons. Now, if I didn't go through that, through being a neglected child, in this abusive family, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. I wouldn't be helping other people heal from their trauma and like surround themselves with the most uplifting and cautious and meaningful relationships in their life. I wouldn't have created the soulful relationships experience. By the way, if you're curious for that, check out the training below. It's the 3 phases you go through until you surround yourself with only conscious, uplifting, and meaningful relationships. And then you can book a one-on-one call with me, discovery call, in which we can talk if this training and the content inside resonates with you, how we can apply it specifically in your life. We'll create a strategy for how we can apply it in your life and what you need to do exactly so that in the next 3 to 4 months you're surrounded only with people who support and lift you up. If you need help with that, check out the link in the description. Now going forward to the 3 steps. First one, my friend, if you are in the process of setting boundaries, it's really crucial to just sit with yourself in meditation. And this is something I'm doing with my personal clients when I'm working with them. It's actually what we do in our 3rd session. So it's like sitting in meditation with the intention, I want to experience all the feelings that I've been repressing towards my father or towards my mother. So everything, like I want to experience all the anger, I want to experience all the fear if there is fear, I want to experience all the grief, I want to experience all the pride, like if there is a blockage of pride. I want to experience everything. I want to experience all the neglect. I want to experience all the abuse. I just want to allow myself to experience those feelings. I want to be fully honest. So for at least 1 hour, you stay in meditation, allowing for these feelings to come up so that you can accept them and let them go. Now, this is the first part of the process. Secondly, precisely after the meditation, you write down a letter, a really genuine, the first, like the most genuine and honest letter you have written towards your parent. In this letter, you share everything that you weren't able to share with them when you were just growing up. Everything that you're disappointed about, everything that you felt offended about, everything that you expected more of but you didn't receive, everything that you needed from them but they weren't able to provide for you. Whatever it is, you write it down genuinely in this letter. This is the second step. Now, by doing so, you are able to channel all these feelings into a piece of paper. And so they're outside of you now. And by being outside of you, you can look at the letter objectively, read it to yourself. And then, only then, if you feel inspired, you can actually imagine, this is the 3rd step, you can actually imagine how you go and read that letter to your parent. And by reading that letter, this is how you set those boundaries. It's like you create a new standard for the relationship with that narcissistic parent. And this is how you eradicate the codependent relationship you've had. So again, if you still feel obliged to taking care of your parent who isn't even looking to be saved, who don't want your help, who isn't doing anything with it, it's just a codependent relationship. You're only giving and giving and giving and giving and giving, and that's it. And you're wasting your energy. This is the process you need to try, my friend. And so the situation with my father, after I did that, he was actually able to take more responsibility for his life and started the business he wanted to do, and it was in his benefit. When I stopped helping him in this codependent way, I helped him more by stopping to help him. And it was also beneficial for my life, of course, because I was now being able to be more confident in speaking my truth, in speaking the way I feel, courageously, boldly, in being transparent. So this is how it's done, my friend. And again, because it is natural for parents to have respect for their children. Now, a narcissistic parent doesn't always have respect for their children. They might not even love the child. So, but it's natural. This is how it's supposed to be. You have the word, you have the power, meaning that if they are not hearing you out, well, then maybe you haven't gone through the first and second part of this process. But if you go and share with them what you want to share, what you feel excited to share, what you feel it's time to share, and they don't hear you out, you can just tell them, well, I'm abandoning you as a parent if you're not willing to listen to me. I trust that the parents who helped me grow up, who brought me into this world, would have respect for me. If you don't have respect for me, I'm not your child anymore. So that's the ultimatum you set, so that you feel heard, right? You demand to be heard. You demand to be respected. That's the only way you can break the cycle, the wound cycle, the traumatic cycle. So this is how it's done, my friend. And so this was everything I wanted to share in this video. I trust you found it to be helpful. Now, if this is the case, comment down below. Let me know what is your experience. And if you need help applying this process personally, well, again, check out the training, and then you can book your free discovery session in which you can talk personally one-on-one. Also, if you're new to the Soulful Relationships channel, subscribe to it, because this is your go-to place for experiencing the most conscious, uplifting, and meaningful relationships you want with everybody. Your romantic partner, your friends, your family, your colleagues at work and boss. That's the place. In this channel, we will talk about all of that. And if you have any specific questions, like if you want me to make a video on a certain topic, comment down below. I would highly, yeah, I would, I would enjoy it, because I want to get to know my audience better. I need that. So thank you so much for staying with me. I love you, my friend. Go and set those boundaries if you feel it's time. I tell you, it's totally worth it. And I will see you in the next video. Bye bye for now. Enjoy your day.